timing isn't exactly the same, but it's something that the 49ers are working on as well. As we go to San Francisco and Brandon Aiyuk, who still doesn't have a new deal, of course. Now, San Francisco is continuing to state they want to keep him. Aiyuk keeps making waves on social media, and I don't know if we should read into this or not, but why not? It's July 8th or whatever it is. Over the weekend, Aiyuk posted a screenshot of a Commanders practice with Jaden Daniels running the offense. Of course, the two did play together at Arizona State back in 2019, so there is a connection. But Jeff, has there been any movement on the talks between Aiyuk and the 49ers?
Generally, when we see things like this, it means there is no movement. And that is what I understand to be the case in this situation. I don't expect anything to really change. Nothing is imminent. Maybe something pops in training camp if a team becomes desperate to make some kind of trade. But for right now, the 49ers have their feet in the ground, and they plan on having Brandon Aiyuk on the field come week 1.
Yeah, Mina, I'm sure Commanders fans love seeing the TikTok, but does Aiyuk to Washington make sense to you?
Yeah, well, I've said a million times, I think the Niners should try to keep him. I suspect they want to keep him. But from the Commanders' perspective, on one hand, Laura, I mentioned the Bengals. You think about what having a 1A, 1B receiver duo did for Joe Burrow, and it's hard not to want something similar for Jaden Daniels with Terry McLaurin and Brandon Aiyuk. It would absolutely help his development as a quarterback. On the other hand, if you trade for Brandon Aiyuk, you're going to have to pay Brandon Aiyuk. And Terry McLaurin, I believe, has about a year left on his contract, so he's going to want to get paid like a number 1 wide receiver before. It is hard to construct a roster that way with not one but 2 highly paid wide receivers.
Yeah, either way, a lot of teams still and will continue to try to copy what the 49ers do. And
Okay, so I think the Commanders absolutely should make a play for Aiyuk. You make the money work the best you can. I don't know if the 49ers would be willing to make that trade. It's so hard to know, quite honestly, where the 49ers see themselves and what they think that they're capable, of getting for someone like Aiyuk. But if you get an Aiyuk for the Commanders with Jaden and Cliff and, that kind of, I don't want to say rebuilding team because, it is rebuilding, but it's just because it's not even rebuilding. It's just they essentially just hit the reset button, right? They really, really did. That's what happens when you get new coaches, new coordinators, new quarterback. Like, that's no longer a rebuild. That's like we just knocked down everything and now we're just starting back up fresh. When I think of a rebuild, there's still like kind of a skeleton there, right? Like this whole operation with the Commanders was just kind of completely blown up. But now with Aiyuk, if you get him there, right, they obviously already have that rapport. They already have that friendship, so to speak, and it would be very reminiscent, and the Commanders will definitely be know this example of what the Eagles did with AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts. They had an existing relationship. They had reportedly talked every single day. They text each other all the time, and then the Eagles went out and got AJ Brown and brought him over, and that was just instant success for the Eagles. Now the benefit for the Eagles with AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts was that he got to play a little bit without AJ Brown. He got to form his own identity, now Jalen Hurts, and kind of make his mistakes, learn, grow, do all that type of stuff. Then they brought AJ Brown, which I really think benefited Jalen Hurts in a lot of ways, because AJ Brown has such a dominant personality that if you brought AJ Brown over to Jalen Hurts when Jalen Hurts was a complete rookie and had no idea what was going on, he would probably defer to an AJ Brown unconditionally, right? Unconditionally. And Aiyuk is obviously a big personality, clearly showing signs of trouble as well, with considering all his antics, that if you bring Aiyuk over, it's like Jaden will rely on that, he'll lean on that, and that's just human nature, right? That's just kind of like the whole big brother type thing. So it could help and hurt, right? It's definitely like a security blanket and comfort, and someone who has your back in the locker room, in the media, with coaching staff, whatever it may be. But it can kind of go both ways. In a perfect world, you'd have him play his rookie year, be a quarterback, learn, make his awful mistakes, have his amazing moments, go through that whole thing. Then you can kind of add that piece, and that way he can kind of forge his own path and then add an Aiyuk. But at the same time, if you add an Aiyuk right now, you're gonna be instantly be better, right? You really, really are. And you would then have to trust the coaching staff and Jaden in that time to understand, yes, this is your guy. Yes, this is an amazing wide receiver, but we still need to learn how to do other things within the realm of the offense. You can't just look for him. We can't kind of regress into this like kind of backyard football where it's like, that's my dude. I know that guy. I'm looking for him every single time. And also not being so easily influenced by him saying, I want the ball. I want the ball. I want the ball. So it's just always an interesting dynamic. I always try to look at both the practical ends of things as well as the psychological and what would be going on through their minds. But I think if you're a Commanders fan, you would definitely want to see this happen, because outside of all the things I just said that could potentially be an issue, I think you would say, well, whatever, well, I'll deal with that when it comes, right? Like it's a good problem to have. Trust in Jaden, trust in Cliff, Kingsbury, the OC, and that you'll be able to navigate any of those so-called issues to begin with. But listen, it is a little the reason why I even emphasize that is because Jaden is already kind of like carrying water for Aiyuk, right? Like he was like on the TikTok with him. Like even that's like not a great look. It's not the worst thing because it's not his team, but it's still just like kind of like, dude, stay out of Aiyuk, stay out of that drama, stay out of the 49ers drama, stay out of the Aiyuk's drama. Like just be separate, and if the media asks you, what do you think about this? You just say, hey, Aiyuk's is an amazing wide receiver. Of course, any team would be lucky to have him. Obviously I'd love the opportunity to play with him. I want to play with all great wide receivers, but I'm excited with the core that we have and the work that we're putting in, right? Like just be neutral, stay out of it. But I think Aiyuk has the potential to be toxic. Honestly, I really, really do, because that's what I'm seeing right now. I understand he's disgruntled. He wants his money. And it is always not the best scenario when you bring someone who's potentially toxic into this brand new team, right? New coaches, new quarterback, new everything. And it can go wrong. But, if you trust the locker room, if you trust the staff, and you trust the personalities that already exist, then it is someone that you can bring in. And maybe he will settle down if he's actually there, and that is his guy, Jaden, and he will be a little bit more reserved, so to speak. So it would be a gamble, but at the same time, like any gamble, it could have a huge payoff. And then, you get to really turbocharge this build of this team now, right? Like, I mean, you would have to say you add Aiyuk and you add a couple more pieces within the next 2 years, you're now going to be fighting for the division, right? Especially if Jaden pans out to be who you think he's going to be. Like you're legitimately going to now be a contender for that, for the division at the very least. And that's obviously exciting. If you're a Commanders fan, you're like, man, we haven't done anything in God knows how long. Like, let's go. Come on. So definitely interesting storyline. I'm really curious to see how this unfolds. It'll be interesting to see how aggressive the Commanders are for this, if at all, or if they're just kind of going for a more slow burn, or if they're also trying to like take culture more seriously, because we know the Commanders struggled with culture, and more mainly because of the previous ownership and whatnot, and it wasn't necessarily a destination. And with Quinn there and stuff, like, are they going to be like, no, we are doing a culture rebuild, we're just hitting the reset button completely. We want to build a more sustainable culture and not just go after shiny objects. So interesting, honestly. Definitely an interesting unfolding situation here. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours, especially you Commander fans. Like, do you want Aiyuk? Are you kind of concerned by some of the antics and the fact that you have so many new, fresh faces? Do you think that would be problematic? Would love to hear your thoughts on this one. Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so that you agree with me or disagree with me. Either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.